put gum on people's stars we didn't like.
Some voices don't shout. They quietly stay with you forever. This was the voice of Tom Petty. Tom Petty was one of those voices. He wasn't a flashy rock star. He didn't chase fashion trends or hide behind costumes. He didn't try to be larger than life. Instead, he told the truth. Simple, honest truth. And turned it into music. This is the story of a man who never backed down. Where it all began. Thomas Earl Petty was born on October 20, 1950, in the small town of Gainesville, Florida. On the surface, it was an ordinary place. But inside his home, life was often complicated. His childhood wasn't easy. Family tensions were common. And his relationship with his father was strict, distant, and at times emotionally painful. Growing up in that environment, Tom Petty learned something very early in life. No one was going to hand him a future. If he wanted a place in the world, he would have to build it himself. Guitar, the moment that changed everything. At just 12 years old, Tom Petty experienced a moment that would change his life forever. He saw Elvis Presley in person. It wasn't just a performance. It wasn't just music. What Tom saw was freedom, confidence, a man standing on stage, completely himself, and unapologetic about it. In that moment, Tom Petty knew one thing with absolute clarity. He didn't want to be anything else. He wanted to make music, and he wanted to live through it. Musical notes, Mudcrutch, learning the hard way. Petty dropped out of school and formed his first band, Mudcrutch. The dream was big. The passion was real. But reality was unforgiving. Record deals fell apart. Songs failed to gain attention. Money was scarce. And success felt impossibly far away. They struggled to survive, sleeping wherever they could, wondering if the dream was already over. Many people would have quit. Tom Petty didn't. To him, failure wasn't the end of the road. It was preparation. It was training for something greater. But behind the calm voice, there was a quiet rebellion. Fire, the birth of the Heartbreakers. In 1976, after Mudcrutch finally collapsed, Tom Petty made a choice. He didn't walk away from music. He started again. From nothing. This time, he formed a new band. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Even the name carried meaning. Heartbreak, pain, disappointment. But also resilience. Broken hearts, yet an unbroken spirit. From their very first album, it was clear this band was different. They weren't chasing trends. They were building something real. Microphone, why their music felt so real. Tom Petty's songs weren't complicated. They didn't hide behind clever tricks or heavy metaphors. They spoke plainly. About waiting. About frustration. About freedom. And about the quiet strength it takes to keep going when life pushes back. He sang for ordinary people. For those who felt overlooked. For those just trying to hold on and make it through another day. That honesty made the music timeless. Musical notes, a run of timeless hits. Throughout the late 1970s and 1980s, the Heartbreakers dominated American radio. Songs like Don't Do Me Like That, Refugee, The Waiting, Don't Come Around Here No More. These weren't just chart toppers. They became memories. Road trip songs, late night songs, Songs people grew up with. They became part of people's lives. Glowing star going solo, speaking from the inside. Even with massive success, Tom Petty felt there were stories he needed to tell on his own. In 1989, he released his solo album Full Moon Fever. It introduced the world to songs that felt deeply personal. Free Fallin, I Won't Back Down. These songs were stripped down, honest, and emotionally fearless. They didn't try to impress. They tried to connect. Brain, I Won't Back Down, a philosophy. I Won't Back Down wasn't just a hit song. It was a statement, a personal philosophy, a reminder to stand your ground, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when the world tells you to give up. That song reflected Tom Petty himself, quietly strong, unshakably honest, and unwilling to compromise who he was. Globe showing Europe, Africa, traveling Wilburys, standing among legends. In the late 1980s, Tom Petty joined one of music's greatest supergroups, the Traveling Wilburys. Alongside him were legends: Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Roy Orbison, Jeff Lynne. Surrounded by giants, Tom Petty never disappeared into the background. He stood as an equal, not because he tried to be louder, but because his authenticity spoke for itself. Trophy success without ego. Over his career, Tom Petty achieved extraordinary success. Over 80 million records sold worldwide. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, 2002. Musica's Person of the Year, 2017. Yet fame never changed him. He never acted larger than life. He never pretended to be something he was. He once said simply, "I write songs because I have something to say." Broken Heart, the final chapter. In 2017, just 1 week after completing the Heartbreakers' 40th anniversary tour, Tom Petty passed away. The cause was an accidental drug overdose. He was 66 years old. The music world stood still, not just because an artist was gone, but because a voice of honesty had fallen silent. A legacy that lives on. Tom Petty is gone, but his voice still speaks. It reminds us to stay honest, to stay human, and most of all, to never back down. He showed the world that strength doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, standing your ground quietly is the bravest thing you can do. Tom Petty was a man who turned truth into music and taught the world that you don't need to shout to be heard. Which Tom Petty song means the most to you?